Have you ever walked into someone's home and everything looks perfect? Clean walls, polished floors, matching curtains, furniture that hasn't moved in years. It looks like a catalog, but it feels like time just stopped. That's what Feng Shui cares about. Not perfection, but movement. Because when energy stops flowing, so does everything else. Money, joy, luck, health. Even love starts feeling quiet. And here's the twist. Sometimes what blocks the energy the most is the stuff we're most proud of. Like walls that haven't been repainted since the day we moved in. Like that one perfect room no one ever uses. Or decorations we kept not because we love them, but because we're too afraid to change them. This video is for anyone who's been holding on, thinking Feng Shui is about keeping everything still. It's not. It's about knowing when to shift and daring to make space for new flow. Even if that means repainting something, that still looks fine. And hey, if this feels like something your home's been trying to tell you too, you can click like, hit subscribe, or just leave a quiet, "Yep, that's me," down in the comments. That tiny action, it lets the algorithm know this kind of wisdom still matters. Now let's go deeper. Because David thought he was doing everything right. And his house? It was beautiful. Until the energy stopped moving. Not everything that looks fresh still feels alive. In Feng Shui, the walls around you are not just paint. They're stories. And if those stories never get to change, your energy and your luck might not either. David loved his walls. The same warm white since the day he moved in. People said it looked clean, timeless, bright, and he believed them. For 10 years, he held on to that same color. No touch-ups, no change of tone, no new brushstroke across a room. He thought it was stability, but it started to feel like he was living inside an old photo. Some days, the house felt heavy. Not sad, just like the air didn't want to move. As if the walls were stuck in a memory that had nothing to do with who he was becoming. And that was the shift when keeping it nice quietly became keeping it stuck. In Feng Shui, colors carry more than light. They carry movement, emotion, vibration. A wall color that stays unchanged for too long can start to store stagnant energy, the kind that doesn't grow with you. It holds the past version of your wealth goals, your health intentions, your relationship dynamics. That timeless white? It was holding old money patterns. The years when David felt unsure, the job insecurity, the just make it work years. So even when his income rose, his cash flow didn't feel lucky. It felt cautious, as if something in the space kept whispering, "Don't risk, don't grow, just survive." David wasn't avoiding change. He just didn't see the point. "It still looks good," he'd say. But looks good became a quiet excuse to not feel more. He started noticing how Ella, his daughter, never wanted to play in the living room. Melissa didn't like working in the study anymore. And David? He'd walk around the house, but feel like his mind was stuck on pause. He was living in a space designed for a version of himself from a decade ago, and that version didn't dream as big, didn't feel as confident, didn't trust luck to show up. The energy of the walls had frozen that self in place, and now it was quietly leaking into every corner of his flow. Imagine wearing the same suit for 10 years. Even if it still fits, does it still match who you are today? Now imagine your entire home doing that. Same paint, same tone, same feeling. It's not design, it's energetic denial. In Feng Shui, every wall becomes a mirror. Not just of what you see, but of how you live. If that mirror hasn't been refreshed, it's not reflecting you anymore. It's echoing someone you've outgrown. David once read online that colors impact mood. Cool tones calm the brain. Warm tones stimulate productivity. But here's what he missed. Over time, even a calming color can become mentally invisible. The brain stops noticing it. And when your brain stops noticing, your body stops responding. No shift, no alert, no freshness. Just low-key, tired energy that blends into the background until you don't even know you're drained. By repainting one wall, they invited in new stories, new seasons, new money flow. David started feeling like luck wasn't something he had to chase anymore. It was something that showed up when the house felt ready for it. David still tells people, "I didn't fix the house fixed me. I just gave it permission." Turns out, the Feng Shui tip was simple. Start where the energy feels invisible. Not broken, not ugly, just too quiet for too long. And yeah, he picked up a few tricks along the way. Like don't wait till paint peels. If your wall hasn't changed in 7 years, it's not timeless. It's probably trapping a version of you that's already moved on. Another one? Let someone else in the house pick the new color. That's how the chi becomes shared. Melissa's soft beige, Ella's sage green. The shift wasn't just on the walls, it was in how the home responded. And don't stress about matching a vibe. David says, "If it feels like money wants to walk in here and stay for coffee, then I picked the right color." Funny thing is, David still kept a can of that old wall paint in the garage. But now he calls it his "just in case I forget how stuck I used to be" can. He jokes with Ella. Want to time travel back to 2014? Go open that lid. She laughs, but she gets it. Because sometimes the best Feng Shui fix isn't tearing down a wall. It's daring to give it a new color. Energy doesn't stay where there's no invitation. Color is one of the simplest ways to call it back. Paint is cheaper than therapy and smells better towel sometimes. There's a big difference between fixing something and just covering it up. Feng Shui doesn't respond to appearances. It responds to truth. And a home that keeps patching old energy without clearing it is a home that slowly forgets how to breathe. After David repainted that first wall, he started noticing just how many little touch-ups he'd done over the years. Small scuff marks by the hallway, a chip on the doorframe near the laundry, the baseboard corner that Ella bumped with her scooter. He'd dabbed each one with a brush. Just a little bit. Just enough to make it disappear. But he never questioned why. He was always covering things, instead of resetting the space altogether. There was something weird about it. Like painting over memories, without actually releasing them. And the house, it felt tired of pretending to be fine. In Feng Shui, energy is either flowing or being blocked. There's no kind of okay. Each tiny patch, each dab of old paint, was holding on to a fragmented energy signature. It's like trying to fix a leaky pipe with stickers. It doesn't repair the flow, it just distracts the eye. What David didn't realize was that these little cover-ups were slowly breaking the energy consistency of his home. The walls no longer told a whole story. They were patchworks of hesitation. And hesitation, in Feng Shui, is the #1 way to confuse your wealth energy. Cash flow doesn't like doubt. It doesn't move through homes that feel unsure of themselves. And David's home, beneath all those patches, was whispering, "I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be anymore." David started seeing those scratches differently. They weren't just wear and tear. They were little messages from time. And every time he covered one up, he was saying, "Shh, let's not talk about it." But energy? It listens when you don't. The space started feeling like a person who smiled on the outside, but never actually said what was wrong. And the longer he patched, the more disconnected he felt in his own home. Like he was living in a space that didn't quite trust itself anymore. That's the real emotional drag. When your home starts hiding its truth just to keep up the look. It's like putting concealer over old bruises instead of letting them heal, or taping the corner of a dollar bill, hoping it still gets accepted. Maybe it works, but it's not flowing. In a house, patch painting is like emotional editing. You're not transforming the energy. You're censoring it. And Feng Shui doesn't respond to edited. It responds to realigned. David once heard on a home podcast that when we make small, repetitive fixes, instead of full changes, our brain registers the space as unsettled. Not broken, just unsettled. It creates visual noise in the subconscious. Tiny inconsistencies your brain notices, even if you don't. And that low-level noise, it drains focus. It dulls motivation. And in Feng Shui terms, it blocks clarity, which blocks money, which blocks momentum. One weekend, David decided no more touch-ups. He cleared the hallway wall completely. No spot painting, no color matching. Just a full, clean coat. And something shifted. For the first time in years, that part of the house felt whole. Not fixed, not covered, but cleared. He went room by room. Baseboards, trim, doorways. Anywhere that had a little story he'd tried to erase. Instead of hiding it, he honored it. And then he let it go. Melissa started saying the house felt clearer. Ella said the walls felt awake. That's what it was. The house wasn't hiding anymore. And neither was the energy. David now has a rule. If I've touched it up twice, it needs a full reset. Turns out, Feng Shui isn't about keeping the walls perfect. It's about keeping the energy honest. He also learned this trick: always repaint with intention. If it's a money area, go earthy. If it's where decisions happen, try something grounding. And never mix old paint with new, it muddies the chi. His favorite part? He lets Ella pick the playlist when they paint. Because even sound carries energy, and new flow deserves a new soundtrack. David keeps a small can of touch-up white in the garage, not for painting, but as a reminder of what not to do. He laughs about it now. I used to patch energy like it was drywall. And whenever a guest compliments his house, he says, "Thanks. This wall used to lie to me. Now it tells the truth." In Feng Shui, a home that's been repainted with clarity attracts wealth with confidence. And if this feels familiar, if you've ever caught yourself just patching it for now. Maybe it's time to do more than just cover it up. Go ahead, hit like or subscribe if you're quietly nodding right now. And if you've got a little wall that's been holding secrets, tell us in the comments. You're not alone. And here, we repaint with wisdom. Feng Shui doesn't care how pretty your space is. It cares how alive it feels. And sometimes the more perfectly we preserve something, the less permission we give it to change. That's not harmony. That's energetic stillness. And stillness doesn't grow money, flow, or life. David had a rule. Don't move what's already perfect. The bookshelf stayed where it was since 2014. The art above the fireplace never changed. The little Buddha statue on the hallway table, next to a candle that hadn't been lit in 5 years. Everything had a place, and it stayed in that place. Because that's what made the house feel curated, collected, preserved. But one afternoon, while dusting the guest room, David paused. The painting in there, a blue abstract canvas from his first apartment. He hadn't actually liked it in years. It didn't remind him of peace. It reminded him of who he used to be. And suddenly, it hit. The house wasn't a reflection of who he was now. It was a museum of who he used to be. In Feng Shui, decor isn't just visual. It's vibrational. Every object, every placement, every static layout holds energy. If that energy hasn't been refreshed, rotated, or released, it creates a kind of frozen flow. The space starts feeling full, but not in a good way. Like it's holding its breath. David had locked his energy inside preservation. The same photos, same angles, same decor balance. But balance that didn't evolve becomes stagnation. And when energy stagnates, your flow with money, creativity, and decision-making starts looping back on itself. The cash flow felt like it plateaued. His marketing ideas, repetitive. Family dinners, predictable. Even weekends started blending into each other. That's the curse of keeping everything just right. Feng Shui doesn't flow through perfect. It flows through present. What David was really protecting wasn't decor. It was identity. A version of himself that worked hard to get here. To have the nice home, the curated rooms, the calming colors. But somewhere along the way, he stopped letting that identity grow. His home became a monument to who he once proved he could be, but not who he was becoming. And that emotional lock-in, it started making him second-guess his own evolution. New ideas felt risky. Spontaneity felt wrong. It wasn't just the house stuck in a loop. It was him. The walls weren't keeping him safe. They were just keeping him the same. It's like framing your high school diploma and hanging it over your dining table for 30 years. No one's saying you didn't earn it. But when the reminder never shifts, you stop reaching for something new. Or it's like planting a tree and never trimming it because it's already perfect. Eventually, the branches block the sun. In Feng Shui, beauty that doesn't breathe turns into emotional storage. And storage doesn't invite luck. It just hoards it in stillness. There's a term in design psychology: visual inertia. When an environment stays too visually static, the brain stops interacting with it. What once felt inspiring becomes invisible background. And that background effect dulls mental stimulation, drains motivation, and even triggers mild emotional fatigue. In Feng Shui language, it blocks renewal, which means wealth, energy, and new qi can't find their way in. David didn't redecorate overnight. He started by removing just one framed photo from a hallway he no longer walked through often. Then came the Buddha statue. He cleaned it, moved it to a better lit corner, lit the candle for the first time in 5 years. Suddenly, it felt like the house noticed, like it had been waiting. Melissa suggested rearranging the living room furniture. They swapped the armchair and the console table. Ella put fresh flowers near the window. None of it was expensive. None of it drastic. But the whole house felt like it exhaled. It was no longer being preserved. It was being lived in. The energy shifted. New opportunities started coming into David's inbox. Unexpected client referrals. An invitation to speak at a workshop. Cash started moving again. But so did creativity and joy. David learned a few things as he went. 1. If you haven't touched or interacted with a piece of decor in over a year, move it, rotate it, or let it go. 2. Every quarter he picks one room and shifts at least 2 items. A lamp, a mirror, a picture frame. Even tiny changes invite new flow. And 3. Every item in the house now has to pass the chi check. Does it reflect who I am becoming? Or just who I used to be? David jokes that if Feng Shui had a smell, his house used to smell like museum air. Now, it smells like coffee, fresh paint, and slightly burned toast. Which, honestly, is a big win. And sometimes, when he walks past that old blue painting, the one he finally gave away, he nods and says, "Thanks for the memories, but I've got better walls now." Letting go of who you were is the fastest way to make space for the energy of who you're ready to be. Sometimes, the most powerful Feng Shui shift isn't in what you add, it's in what you're finally willing to repaint. Because energy needs permission to move. And wealth, luck, clarity, they all flow better in spaces that aren't stuck pretending to be perfect. So if today's story felt a little too familiar, thank you for staying. Thank you for being the kind of person who listens when your home starts whispering back. If you found something in this episode that helped you breathe a little deeper, feel free to click like or leave a comment. It tells YouTube you want more content like this. And it tells us you're walking this Feng Shui journey with heart. We've got more to share next time. Deeper shifts, quieter truths, and the simple ways your space can unlock the energy you didn't know you were holding back. Until then, take a breath. Move something. Let it be simple. Let it be real. Your space speaks. Wisdom listens.